The 2020 Suzuki V-Strom 1050XT. I'm going to start by saying this bike for me was a massive surprise. I think mainly because they've always been around. As far as I can tell, it's the third generation, the third iteration of the V-Strom, and it's basically using the same engine, tweaked and fettled slightly each time. Because Suzuki have chosen to refine rather than rewrite the big bore V-Strom, it doesn't get as much fanfare and acclaim as it possibly deserves, but more on this later. It runs a 19-inch front, 17-inch rear, both tubeless spoked wheels. The MY 2020 Suzuki V-Strom XT is set up for adventure touring. It loves to pound the highway and will do so all day, but it's just as happy to barrel down a gravel road. The power plant is a 1037cc V-twin set up to meet Euro 5 emission standards. It's got 106 horsepower, 75 foot-pounds of torque, a 6-speed transmission. The seat is adjustable, but from factory comes in at 33.7 inches off the ground. Other stats include 6.3 inches of travel front and rear, 43mm inverted fully adjustable forks, a 20-litre fuel tank, and it weighs in at 235 kgs wet. The V-Strom 1050 also has some awesome electronics. Suzuki have stopped short of giving it complete rider modes, but they do give you 3 sliding scales, meaning you can set the bike up just how you like it. Suzuki calls it SDMS, which is essentially a throttle map A, B and C, 4 levels of traction control and 2 levels of ABS. The bike also has a hydraulic clutch and ride-by-wire throttle, meaning it has cruise control, which for me was an absolute win. Fuel economy. The bike arrived full and I burnt through the first tank in about 280 kilometers. Suzuki recommends running the bike on premium 95 octane fuel. At first fill up, the gauge was showing 0 kilometers to empty, but the bike only took 17 liters. The V-Strom 1050 is equipped with a 20-litre fuel tank, so there's obviously a 3-litre reserve. Tell you what though, this came with an eye-watering price tag of almost $50. Let's talk ergonomics. With the seat in high mode, the V-Strom is a very comfortable place to sit. I like the geometry of my knees and found that it's an easy bike to ride either sitting or standing. The seat is good for anything up to about 200 kilometers, but if you plan to be in the saddle all day or for multiple days in a row like we did, then you may want to look into ways of making the seat a little softer. The rest of the ergonomics were great, however. The levers and bars were pretty much where I wanted them and all easy to adjust. Pillion accommodation is a little cramped, with the pegs being up quite high, but it was fine for a short trip. The screen up front is adjustable, but because of where the clasp is, you do need to get off the bike to adjust it. Not a major, and given the clasp is a massive silver buckle type thing, I'm guessing it was a design choice they chose to make. It would be nice to be able to adjust the height of the screen while riding, or at least from the saddle, but one bonus to the screen is it does have many notches, almost infinitely adjustable between the highest and the lowest setting. I would have liked the screen to go a little higher. Aesthetics. It's clear to see the V-Strom 1050 is styled after the DR Big of old, and clearly shows elements from the new Katana as well, with its square front headlight and small duckbill. In pictures, I felt the bike looked a little plastic and a little meh, uninspiring, but in person, the aesthetics grew on me really quickly, and I found the red and white color scheme to be rather striking. Lighting and gauges. We're talking LEDs all around on this puppy, and Suzuki have done a great job. The headlight is brilliantly bright and does a great job of lighting up the road. The tail light is super bright as well. The single color LCD display does look a bit busy when you first get on the bike, but you'll soon work out where everything is and understand the simplistic controls and readouts. You have an up and down button as well as a menu button on the left-hand switchgear. Interestingly though, you can't change your odometer, trip or fuel consumption gauges while in cruise control mode. These buttons double as the set, increase and decrease speed controls. The bike scores well in the utility stakes. With its large rear grab handles, the Suzuki V-Strom is easy to manhandle around the driveway or garage. They're made from strong plastic composite and feel rather solid. The factory rear rack is also pretty handy. The handles and rack are one piece and held on with 4 10mm bolts, which are nice and easy to remove to install something like a Ventura rack. The rear seat is held down by a clasp, which is released by the key, and the main seat is held down by 2 Allen key bolts. Suzuki also includes some larger spaces to raise the main seat, all housed in a form-fitting cutout under the pillion seat. Nice job, Suzuki. The XT model I tested came with factory crash bars around the engine, which stuck out a good amount. I could see them saving not only the engine but the plastics in a drop as well. I also loved how Suzuki chose to put a USB-A port, or a standard USB port, on the left-hand side of the display instead of a standard auxiliary power port. I think 9 times out of 10 you'll be charging your phone or GPS, so that's exactly what you need up there. There's also a standard cigarette lighter type auxiliary power port under the pillion seat. So there you have it, the Suzuki V-Strom 1050XT. All things taken into account, it's an absolute win. Suzuki have chosen to refine an already winning design instead of rewriting the book. This means they could take all the things that people love and add more to it to make it better. The engine's been around for ages, Suzuki's just given it a few more cc's and cleaned up the emissions. As for the rest of the bike, they've refined the looks and tweaked the tech. They've made a good bike even better, and I was well impressed. And for the roughly 19k plus on-road cost they're retailing for currently, you could buy one, make a few minor modifications, and you'd still save a pretty penny over much of the competition. I've heard people say adventure on a budget when it comes to Suzuki's V-Strom 1050, and I agree, but that's not a bad thing. Take away the negative connotations. If anything, it leaves more money in the bank for accessories and to actually ride and enjoy the bike. Good work, Suzuki. If you get a chance to take the V-Strom 1050 out for a ride, do it. You will not be disappointed.